Page 64, Little Scherzo. A scherzo is like a prank. So when you see a piece that's marked scherzo, or the speed is scherzando, or something, you think of a prankish thing. You just don't know what to expect. Just low. At the top of the page, they're introducing a thing called a tenuto mark. I'll talk about that when I get to the articulation, because I consider that part of articulation. And there's some explaining we got to do on that one. They have some other things before playing and while playing and all that junk. You do that, have fun with it. If you have questions, you can ask your teacher, I guess, if you have one. Otherwise, you ask me. I'm just going to go through the process I use for learning a piece of music. Let's see what we get. I like to look it over. It's 4 lines long. It's actually longer than that, but there's only 4 lines of music to learn. The clef signs are treble and treble clef. They're both treble clef. Always check the clef signs. You never know. There's no sharps or flats in the key signature. We're in the key of C major. We're just going to play the white keys unless they give us accidentals, which they don't. So it's white keys only. 2/4 time. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And we got eighth notes all over everywhere. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. With an occasional 16th note thrown in there for fun. Okay, so I'm going to take it one hand at a time at first, and let's see what we get. The right hand's up here. That puts the hand here. And it's 1E and 2E and 1 and 2. And I try and connect everything at first if I can. And I make sure I can play it. 1E and now we finish the second line, you're here. And they go to the third line, they want you here. You're going to come up. Well, when you go to the third line, you do that one. Then you got to come down again. And then you go to the last line, you're coming down again. We're moving around. You notice that? We're here, here. Then we go here. Okay. We're starting to move around. I do hope you're keeping up with all this other stuff, because when we start moving around, things get interesting. There are different techniques for moving around on the piano. Right now, we're going to do it the beginner way and just leave it like it is. We're just going to move the hand up. We have to lift up between the second and third line. It's a new phrase anyway. We're going to lift up. Here, instead of just lifting up, we lift and move here to here. You need to get where you can eventually do this one key up or down without looking too. You know what that feels like just to move one key. So just move. And then when you're doing that one, and then when we get to measure 11, you go down again. And then again. That's fine. And then when you go back to the top, here, now you got to come back up to here. So we're just going to stay in a 5-finger position for now. Later on, we're going to start spreading around and crawling around. I need to talk about that. Left hand, same rhythm as the right, but you're up here. Okay. Now, keep in mind when you finish the second line, you're here. Third line, you're going to come down one. Come down again. See, the right hand's good, so is the left hand. And then when you finish it, you're here. But then when you go back to the top, we gotta come up here. Go from here to here. I would rather not do that. And I'd like to keep you in a nice, neat 5-finger position here, but this makes it hard when you do that. It really does make it hard. You gotta go to here, because you gotta come from here to here. You see, the problem is both hands are moving. When you have to move both hands at the same time, it gets tricky. So if I can figure out a way to move one hand first and then the other, I will. Here you can't. You got to move both hands. Or I can adjust the fingering just a little bit so it makes it a little easier or less difficult. And that's what I might do. And the left hand, at the end, the bottom, you're here, 4th finger. And when I do the DC Alfini, I got to go back to the top right here. Well, you notice in the first measure there's 2 E's. There's 2 of them. It's standard fingering policy, practice, process, whatever, to change hand positions on repeated notes. Because on a repeated note you have to lift up anyway. So if I need to, I change hand positions on that since I'm lifting up anyway. So when I go from the bottom here, and I want to go to here, I can do the first E at the top, and second finger, and then fifth. So I'm not moving immediately, I'm here. That way I'm only moving one hand at a time. I'll come back to that in a minute. Let's do the hands together. We're here. Same rhythm, different notes, different fingers. Okay, when I get to the second line, I'm here at the end of it, and go to the third line, both hands come down, one key. Come down again. Get the idea? But when I get to the bottom, I'm here. And when I go to the top, I don't want to go from here to here. I don't want to move both hands. That's tricky, it really is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move one hand at a time. I just adjust the fingering a little. So when I go to the top, I'm going to leave the left hand where it is. The right hand's going to come up to play here, but the left hand's just going to play that. So I'm moving one hand here. Just one hand. Then for the next note at the top, now the right hand's in position. Now I'm going to move the left hand. So I moved one hand at a time. Here. That makes it a little easier, or less difficult. I do a lot of this kind of fingering suggestions in the pieces because I like to connect everything at first if I can. You can't always. And with this fingering, you can't connect these, but we're staying in a nice, neat 5-finger position for now. However, this going back to the top needs fixing. You can do it any way you want to. You do fingering in the book if you'd rather, but I don't. Now, once I have the hands working together, then I go back over and get rid of any hesitations. Try not to look down at the keyboard any more than you have to. And then I'll add in the articulation. Here we got the staccatos, the slurs, and the tenutos that we got to deal with. The staccatos, they're just short. Flex at the wrist here. If you get loud, you got to start using the arm because you need more muscle, more weight, and this doesn't do it. This is nice if it's not too loud. Now the tenuto, you see the first one at the end of the first line, it simply means you linger on the note. Let it last its full value. And if it's followed by a rest or something, you might even let it last just a hair longer. Linger on it. However, keep in mind people don't agree on a lot of things in music, and the tenuto mark is one of those things they don't agree on. See, a long time ago, because music has evolved, back in the 1700s or whatever, they didn't have accent marks per se, but they did have tenutos, and tenutos were considered accents way back then. It was an accent. And then as the accent marks were being introduced there, late 17, early 1800s in there, then the tenuto was more like just linger on the note, not necessarily accent. Now some people will say, put more stress on it. Well, that's an accent. For piano, that's an accent. I have noticed it in Rachmaninoff piano music. A lot of times the melody, because the melody is hidden inside there's notes all over the place and the melody's in there somewhere, they will indicate the melody with tenuto marks. Even though you're not necessarily lingering on them. There they are stressing those notes. Bring those notes out. That's what they want you to do. So you're liable to run across this, however. Just be prepared for whatever. Either linger on the note or stress it or both or whatever. See, here it's at the end of a phrase. I would not stress the end of a phrase. I want to come down at the end of a phrase. But I could linger on the note. I could give it its full value and, if possible, a little more. Here you can't give it more, but you can give it the full value. That's all that's for. So it's the last measure there at the end. Here. Linger on that, and then lift up for the phrase. Then the dynamics. MF at the beginning, mezzo forte is sort of loud, and there's a crescendo. There's not a lot of help, because they don't tell you how far to crescendo or how much to crescendo. Just crescendo. Well, have a nice day. It's up to you. It's interpretation. Experiment. At the end of the line, they want you to come off at the end of the phrase. So moderately loud. Because of the flow of the music, the line it keeps going up. Here, I might keep crescendoing for that. So I'm going to keep crescendoing all the way to the third measure, and then in the fourth measure I come back down. So it's here. A little louder, a little louder. Yeah, each measure I just got a little louder. It's whatever. All right, second line would be the same thing, except now you only got a little bit of time to do it. Third line, moderately loud here. What's going on here? Let's back up. Hold the phone. Measure 10. You have a staccato and a tenuto. Tenuto means linger on the note. Staccato means play it short. Well, make up my mind. What do you want? It's like a portamento. A portamento is a long staccato. So you're playing a staccato, but you're lingering on it. It's music. What do you expect? Of course it doesn't make sense. So I'm separating the notes slightly, but I'm still separating them for the staccato. That's all it is. And then measure 11, you're moderately soft. And then measure 13, you're soft. And now we're going to get louder. Now here, the last two measures here, the left hand has that line though, long staccato. Now how long you hold that down, it's up to you. You can almost hold it down like an eighth note, eighth rest. So to make it easier, that's fine. Yeah, and then you crescendo from soft back up to something. My suggestion is maybe you go up to about a moderately soft or so here. Or moderately loud, I don't know. Because then when you go back to the top, now you're going to be moderately loud again. You have to experiment with these dynamics and get to where you can feel the dynamics, where it makes sense musically of what they're doing. Speed. Well, scherzando is a playful. It's like a prank. It needs to be accurate. Don't go faster than accurate, in my opinion. So not everybody agrees with that either, but I do. I want to be accurate here. Here. Please don't copy me. That's just one way of doing it. If I played it again, I would play it differently. I play it different every time I play it because I like play by feel and I like to experiment with things. The natural accents, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2. Feel the natural accents as you're going through this. Remember the DC al fine? DC means go to the beginning. Al fine means go to fine. The fine is at the end of the second line. That's where the thin and thick bar line. Remember, the thin and thick bar line is the symbol for the end of a piece. It's an end of a piece symbol. If you're writing music or whatever, make sure you use the thin and thick bar line at wherever your piece ends. Wherever, okay. Let's play this together very slowly and check the notes and the rhythms. Because it's got so many eighth notes in it, I'm going to put the metronome on eighth notes again. But I'm only going to give us 2 quarter notes to come in. I'm not going to do louds and softs, but we will do the staccatos and things, and we'll do the DC al fine. Ready, and go, and. and 2 and. And 2 and. And 2 to the top.